Hi everyone, it's Mariah Rossel of Healing Betrayed Soul. I wanted to take a minute and talk a lot about this idea of emotions, feelings, vulnerability. So a lot of us this weekend had a really intense weekend. And one of the things was we had a lovely event and we had some of the highest highs. Beautiful folks got married. We had some of the lowest lows and deep, difficult feelings. We had a community member that chose to no longer choose to be in this world anymore, and that was a really difficult thing. And then on a personal level, I had a dear sister that had a baby, and I helped somebody else through some physical trauma. And so, I'm not saying these things really to make a strong impact about my personal life. But it's one of those, we go through these really intense moments and we often will run away from them, we'll hide from them. We won't really admit what's going on. And in the midst of all of this, I left the event and I went on an ice run. And the cashier at the store was like, "Oh, how's your day?" And I told him what was going on, and I just got this deer in the headlights blank stare from this young checkout guy, and it's maybe not the best discretion to choose what to say at the moment. But at the same time, the thing that I find is so often we aren't wanting to say what's going on and what we're feeling. And I think it's really important that we start to really just be honest and express what's going on. And I'm not saying these things in, "Oh, please have pity for me, have compassion for me." Well, compassion is lovely. It's, can I own my own experience? Can I actually admit what's going on with me? Can I sit in my own grief? Can I sit in my own joy? Can I sit in my own shame and my sorrow and my elation and all of these feelings, and really just sit there and say, this is what's going on for me. This is what's real, and I'm not pushing it away. I'm not pulling more of it. I'm just sitting there and allowing it to really be real and be present with myself in that moment. And I think that's a really big thing. And so often when people come to us and when they say, "You know what? I'm grieving. I'm feeling sorry or sorrow. I'm not feeling confident," whatever it is, we have this tendency, we have this desire to want to make it better. We have this desire to make them feel different than what they're feeling. And the problem with this is when we say, "Oh, you're grieving. Let me make you happy. Let me make it all better. You don't love yourself. Let me make you, feel better," is we're now inherently saying what you're feeling is not okay. What you're feeling is not acceptable. Instead of saying, "You're going through it. Let me just sit here and hold space and allow you to feel what you're feeling, and thank you for being vulnerable enough and for trusting me enough to let me see how you're feeling." Because obviously a lot of people, for instance, aren't necessarily comfortable in those feelings. And so when they allow us to see those feelings, it's a blessing and an honor that they allow us to see those. And so instead of really focusing and saying, it's not okay, it's saying, it's okay. I'm here if you need anything, but I'm also just here to sit and allow you to go through what you're going through. Because this is one of the things that we see in our society is, I don't know how to respond to that. Your emotional state, your vulnerability, it makes me uncomfortable. And so we say, "I'm uncomfortable with that. I want to stop that. And so I'm going to soothe you. I'm going to tell you it's okay. I'm going to tell you, well, yes, this terrible, horrible thing happened, but you're lucky it wasn't this other, even worse thing. I'm going to tell you all of these things to try to make you feel better." When in the end, all we want is to feel comfortable and safe, just feeling what we're feeling. and to go through it and to acknowledge it. And then to have the autonomy to say, you know what, right now I'm grieving and I'm not going to put my life on hold, and I'm going to continue to go through these things, and I'm going to allow myself to have the moments of grief interspersed with the moments of whatever else I'm doing, or the moments of joy, whatever the moments are. But we're much better at holding space for people when they're on the happier side of emotions and when they're on the more difficult side of emotions. And so it's really important to just say, what do you need? Or do you need anything? Do you want anything? Do you just want me to listen and hear the fact that you're going through a hard time? Okay, I'm going to just acknowledge. You just want to know, I'm grieving. I'm angry. I'm in sorrow. Whatever it is. We just want to feel those emotions and then continue to go on with our lives without having people make a big deal of our feelings or make us stop doing things because our emotions are feeling hard for them. And so it's just like, okay, I am acknowledging this and I'm feeling this and I'm going on. And then the people that are going through the emotions also have that ability at any time to say, you know what? I thought I was okay, but I need to take space. And that space could be, I'm going to walk outside for 5 minutes and, really feel my emotion. And then I'm going to go back to what I was doing. But I don't need you as somebody else to stop me from feeling my emotion. That's the biggest thing. And we all need that space. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate my community, and I appreciate all of you for, holding that space for me and for me holding space for you. And I think that that's the biggest thing is like, as we hold space for each other, how do we hold this space in this beautiful way where people can really feel what's going on and give them that autonomy? And that's the biggest thing, is that when we tell someone that their emotion is too much, when we tell somebody that they are too much, we're taking away their autonomy. And so it's just like acknowledging, you're going through this thing and I'm going to hold you. And I'm going to love you. And that's okay. For exactly how you are. Rather than telling people how they should be and how they should feel, just allowing them to be. And this is one of the things I keep talking to people about is like, how do we actually hold space for vulnerability? And the thing is, if somebody's being vulnerable and they're sharing and they're crying and they're angry and they're in shame, and we're like, that's not okay. That makes me uncomfortable. Here, let me soothe you. Let me make it all better. That doesn't hold and create space for people to continue to be vulnerable. That's where we shut down the vulnerability. That's where we tell people, you know what? I don't really want to see and hear you. So instead, it's about, okay, you're going through this. I hear you. And then it's also the emotional responsibility of all of us who are going through whatever we're going through to see if we have this ability. And this is a hard one because when we're in that moment of emotion, we're often not able to do this. But to say, what is it that I really need? And then ask for it. I need space. I need a shoulder to cry on. Actually, I need some water. Can you stand up and go get me a glass of water, because I'm kind of going through my process and walking halfway across the room feels like a hurdle right now. Whatever it is. But so that's also the place where, it's kind of our responsibility as community members to hold space for people going through the process. But it's also our responsibility as autonomous beings to ask ourselves, what do we need? And how can we ask for it? Rather than asking the rest of the world to assume what it is that we need and give us what we think we need. Because that's asking for people to have a little bit more psychicness, if that's even a word, than they actually have. And so instead of asking them to assume what we need, know what we need, and give it to us, this is also our question of self-knowledge, of how do we know what we need, and not have the shame or fear for asking for it. And I know a lot of us are afraid of asking for too much, and I hear this from people all the time of, I don't want to say this because I don't want to feel like a burden. I don't want to ask this because I don't want people to think I'm needy or too much. But if we can really do deep self-reflection and say, what do I actually need? What can I actually not provide for myself in this moment? And ask for that, and really just evaluate. Am I asking for this because I'm just, don't want to do it? Am I asking for this because I want some sort of external satisfaction? Or is this actually something that would make my life a whole lot easier that I could ask somebody else that's not a lot of work? Asking somebody, hey, you're standing up and I'm crying and can you get me a glass of water? Really isn't a big deal. And if we put ourselves in the position of any of our friends, if we were in that position, of course, you need a glass of water. I can go get that for you. You need tissues. I can go get that for you. You want me to just sit in silence with you for 5 minutes? I can do that. Often the requests are not that big of a deal. But when we get into this emotional state where we're surrounded by intense emotions, we often think of ourselves as a burden. We think that we're too much. And so I just encourage all of you guys to think about this, and this is something that I reflect on myself too, of, what requests are actually useful to ask my community, to ask my friends. Not because I can't do it, and it doesn't make me less than, it doesn't make me incapable, but just to really ask in those moments, how do we really express ourselves and be heard and be felt and get our needs met without asking for people to psychically read our minds? So thanks everybody for tuning in today. I love you all, and I'll talk to you soon.